My mission is to create a world that is whole again by helping others align mind, body, and spirit, and I see you as a co-creator.
Well, we're on different wavelengths because we're not trying to create a world that's whole again. We see this world as perfect and whole.
Okay. I see you as a co-creator, and I am learning my path and my ways to help others and heal the world. And
well, again, we're on different wavelengths because we don't see the world as broken and in needing of being healed. We see people seeing it that way and suffering from their perspective.
Okay, and I mean, I got my mission through better understanding of my wounds of my life, so thank you for that perspective. Reason I wanted to come up, I have two areas that I love your work, and I've been listening to your tapes and reading your books for about a year now, and I see just today how many of us you've helped, and but the two places I'm having difficulty. One, I've recently read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and I often think, well, what would Eckhart say here? And as far as being in the present moment as opposed to in the future.
Well, whether you're thinking about the past, the present, or the future, you're doing it in the present. In other words, for somebody to say you have to be present, we want to say, try being otherwise. In other words, it's all happening now. But while you're doing it now, you can be thinking about the past, which is counterproductive, or even thinking about the present, which is not all that productive, or you can be thinking about who you have become, which is not only productive, it's way fun. In other words, that's the yahooing down the canyon kind of perspective. That's the riding the wave of perspective, you see.
Right. I guess the more glaring piece is that I have difficulty with, this is difficult, the amount of money that you're charging for the workshop and the tapes, and I want abundance for Esther and Jerry. I want abundance for us all. But the message of Abraham, I feel, can do so much good if it had a wider audience and were made more available to people that can't afford it, and perhaps available on your website.
It's all in a book for $9.95. Most of it's on the website at no charge at all, but then you'd need a computer. In other words, it's there for you. Jerry and Esther talked with us at length years ago. They've been doing these workshops for 25 years now. And everything has stayed the same with them in terms of what they are charging, except now they are offering lunch. But as they talked to us about this, they wondered about those like you who would have that perspective. And we said to them, if you say to someone, I see that you cannot afford this, therefore I will adjust myself to what you can afford, you are not assisting them in reaching for what they've put into vibrational escrow. If someone experiences the contrast as you've described it, who really wants to participate in something that they can't afford, whether it's a workshop like this or an automobile or living in a different place or whatever it is, when the contrast causes you to feel the discord of not enough, it causes you to ask for more. And when you ask, Source lines up a means for you to achieve. But to ask Jerry and Esther to make a different behavior to line up with you rather than you now lining up with what's in your vibrational escrow is a disservice to you. You can be or do or have anything that you want to be or do or have. But when you give someone else the responsibility for making it work for you, you've disempowered you. They believe in you, and so do we.
Okay.
And if they were to say, well, we see that people are having a hard time, and so we will give this away, or we will just break even on it. We will pay our staff, and we will pay the hotel, and the hotel charges $60 per seat for a room like this. And so a lot of it is supporting the staff behind the scenes. In other words, it's the economics that makes the world go round. But let's say that Jerry and Esther are concerned about your concern, and so they adjust themselves in order to assist you. So instead of you finding the way to match your vibrational escrow, which is always a high to you, instead, they've adjusted themselves to you, which if you were just listening to us a minute ago, we said, we will never do. We will never come join you over here. So if you're coming to the party of non-physical, you've got to adjust yourself into the vibration of abundance and prosperity and well-being and clarity, you see, because the source within you never adjusts down to meet you. But you're asking Jerry and Esther to adjust down to meet you,
Well,
see.
I'm just thinking more in helping more people out there, like the copyright message on the CDs. If instead you said, copy this freely and give it to a friend that might be in need, and or give it to someone that has never heard of the work. I'm not so much...
Well, we hear what you're saying, and they hear it too, and there are so many things that they are putting. There are 22 9-minute YouTube clips, which is the very best of these seminars, on the website.
Good.
Where you could send any link to anyone, you see. So as you decide to make Jerry and Esther or anyone your cause, as they need to change their behavior in some way to make the world a better place, therein lies the problem. This is what we're talking about all day, every day. That's conditional love. The world would be better off if this condition would change. The world would be better off if Jerry and Esther or somebody would do something different. And we say, that's the shortage consciousness that we're talking about. That's the believing that there's this finite pile of abundance, and that somehow in someone getting more, they're depriving someone else. And it just does not work that way. The best example that Jerry and Esther can live is one of abundance. The best example that and they know it. They drive down the highway in a $2 million bus. And as they drive down that highway, there are people who drive past them, thumbs up. They're thrilled with the idea that anyone could have something so beautiful. And there are those who drive by with something other than their thumb up. Because they believe that there's only so much to go around, and Jerry and Esther are getting way more than their fair share of it, you see. And we say, the abundance is over here. You got to come over and match it. It's not ever going to come over here and match your shortage consciousness.
So is the shift that I need is more in being more grateful, or being more accepting?
Well, it's in finding the thought that feels best. In other words, the only way you can sort this out, you see, it's a scramble, because there are people that present to you accurate things that say, there are children who are starving, and they are. And when you were little and you didn't eat your food, you were chastised because you should eat your food, because there are children somewhere else who don't have any food, and you should be grateful about your food. And there are so many things that you've been hearing from so many people that it takes you this way and this way, so that most people are all upside down and all around. They don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that Jerry and Esther have a $2 million bus. People are in controversy about this all over the nation. They can't decide, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Are they gluttons, or are they examples of abundance? In other words, what is it? And if Jerry and Esther were letting the way they feel be based upon other people's response to them, they would be in a world of hurt, because there are so many people who can't even begin to understand their understanding of the free-flowing abundance, you see. And so when you finally get it, that as you try to train yourself into alignment with what this one thinks, or this one thinks, or this one thinks, you'll just go out of your mind, because they think different things about you. They all think something different, and they even think different things at different times, depending upon how aligned they are. But when you are reaching for the thought that feels best, in other words, just ask yourself, just make a series of statements. The world is in trouble, and it's diminishing, and things aren't going well. Now, stay on that thought for a little bit. There are too many people that are in trouble and too many people that are charging too much for too many things. And the economy is in great trouble and struggle, and it's getting worse and worse. And we are on our way not just to a recession, but to a depression where people will starve and children will be hungry. And as you stay there, you feel worse and worse and worse and worse. Not because you're speaking truth, not because it has to be that way, but because you're beating the drum of something that is so foreign, not only to who you were when you were born, but who you have become, and most important, to who you are as a source energy, who knows of the eternal well-being of this planet. You just can't speak in contradiction to who you are and what you really know without feeling bad. Now, you could be speaking of financial shortage, and it could be an extremely valid thought from the viewpoint of someone who is physically focused. We acknowledge there are people living in poverty. But when you speak those kinds of statements about financial well-being or resources, you always take yourself away from this vortex of knowing, which is the source within you, who knows of abundance, who knows where abundance comes from. You see, the source within you, that God within you, is not worried about this planet, because that perspective knows that the contrast that you are living is going to keep you asking. And as long as you're asking, the abundance is going to keep coming. So the most that you or anybody in your generation could do is to pinch yourself off from the abundance, but then thankfully, and we mean this with every loving fiber of our non-being, you're going to croak. You're going to croak. You're going to croak, and your shortage consciousness is going to cease. And you know what will remain? Oh, you know what will remain of the life that you've lived? Your escrow. Your escrow, the escrow of asking, remains long after your resistant being has croaked. And you know what the new babies coming in know? They know abundance, you see. They know abundance.
Okay. I got it. Thank you.
That appreciation is for you. Because without your living of life and your earnestly wanting to know that, you could not have put so much in vibration.